Isengard. Once allied to Gondor, this land now serves a new master, the Dark Lord Sauron.
Following the downfall of Númenor in the late Second Age, the Dunedain exiles, led by Elendil and his sons, Isildur and Anarion, established the kingdom of Arnor and Gondor in Middle-earth. To watch over the gap of Calenarthorn between the Misty Mountains and White Mountains, and prevent incursions into the lands of Gondor, the Dunedain built two great fortresses, Aglarond, in the gorge that would later become known as Helm's Deep, and Angrenost. At the center of Angrenost, or Isengard, they raised the unbreachable Tower of Orthanc and placed within a palantir, one of the 7 steam stones they had brought from Númenor. Unfortunately, in the Third Age, Gondor's control over both Isengard and the entire region of Calenarthorn began to wane. The people of Calenarthorn dwindled because of the Great Plague, one of the signs of the arising of Sauron, and most headed eastwards, leaving behind a poor defense in the form of several small garrisons, led by local hereditary chieftains. Their people mingled with those men who were dwelling in the vales of the White Mountains. Sauron stirs up mischief, and there is a great attack on Gondor. Orcs pour out of the mountains and out of Mirkwood and join with Easterlings. Cirion gets help from the north. Eorl the Young wins the victory of the field of Celebrant and is given Calenarthorn or Rohan. Commanded by their master, Sauron, the Balkor, one of the many savage tribes in the east, took advantage of the weakened state of Calenarthorn and, reinforced by the orcs of the Misty Mountains, invaded it. To combat this grave threat, the ruling steward Cirion called for aid from among the Northmen. As we discussed in a previous video, Eorl and his Eotheod answered that call and saved the day. Cirion then granted Eorl the province of Calenarthorn, which became the kingdom of Rohan. As I stated in the same video, the wild men in the vales of the White Mountains were driven out by the Northmen and congregated in Dunland. However, in spite of the new alliance between Gondor and Rohan, Isengard remained under the nominal authority of Gondor. Another point was that the stewards retained under their own rule the Tower of Orthanc and the Ring of Isengard. The keys of Orthanc were taken to Minas Tirith, the tower was shut, and the Ring of Isengard remained manned only by an hereditary Gondorian chieftain and his small people, to whom were joined the old hereditary guards of Aglarond. The keys to the Tower of Orthanc was sent to the ruling stewards in Minas Tirith, while the rest of Isengard was maintained by a Gondorian chieftain and his garrison, to whom were added members of Aglarond's old guard. As the ruling steward's focus shifted almost completely to its eastern and southern borders, the emissaries of Minas Tirith came ever more seldom to Isengard, while the palantir there was largely forgotten as well and remained in the locked Tower of Orthanc. As a result, the Gondorian chieftains assumed control and took to styling themselves as Lord of Isengard, and rumors circulated among the Rohirrim that they dabbled in black magic. The ruling steward's continued neglectful attitude towards Isengard would have consequences for Rohan's future. The line of the Gondorian chieftains of Angrenost had failed, and the command of the fortress passed into the hands of a family of the people. These, as had been said, were already long before of mixed blood, and they were now more friendly disposed to the Dunlandings than to the wild Northmen who had usurped the land. With Minas Tirith far away, they no longer had any concern. The line of hereditary Gondorian chieftains ultimately failed. The people left in charge of Isengard, being already of mixed blood, as I mentioned before, became more sympathetic to the Dunlandings rather than to the Rohirrim. They allowed the wild men to filter into North and Westfold unchecked and make settlements in the areas about the stronghold. During the reign of Deor, the 7th king of Rohan, the Dunlandings began to attack the outlying settlements of the Rohirrim. The king then led an expedition northwards to repel and scatter the wild men. Deor was dismayed to discover that the Dunlanding raiding force had come out from Isengard. As was later known, the Dunlandings, having been admitted as friends, had seized the Ring of Isengard, slaying the few survivors of its ancient guards who who were not, as were most, willing to merge with the Dunlandish fold. The stronghold was now fully occupied by the wildmen, who, welcomed as friends, had mingled with the people there and slain those who had refused their entreaties. Rohan sent word at Gondor at once, but no help came that day. Dunland would use Isengard as a staging ground in its invasion of Rohan during the long winter and the reign of Helm Hammerhand, the 9th king of Rohan. After the long winter, Helm's nephew, Frealaf, forced the Dunlandings, already reduced by the Great Famine, to capitulate. It can thus be readily understood that when Saruman offered to take command of Isengard and repair it and reorder it as part of the defences of the West, he was welcomed both by King Frealaf and by Beren the Steward. At the crowning of Frealaf as the 10th king of Rohan, Saruman appeared, wooing the Rohirrim with gifts and praises. At that time, he was still seen as a friend and ally, so when Saruman put in an offer to assume the guardianship of the Tower of Orthanc, he received the blessing of both Frealaf and Beren, the ruling steward of Gondor. The wizard hardly repaid their trust, however, for he eventually claimed the stronghold as his own seat of power. From his research into the lore of Middle-earth, Saruman knew of the Palantiri and had guessed that the Orthanc stone rested untouched in its tower. And the vale that was once fair was filled with wolves and orcs, for Saruman was there mastering a great force for the service of his new master. Soon ensnared to the Orthanc stone, Saruman became Sauron's servant, albeit an untrustworthy one, as he built an army for the service of his new master, but also to try claim the One Ring for himself. The Vale of Isengard began to change into a slave's flattery of Mordor. The ringed walls were fortified, and where 3 gardens had once stood, pits were dug and filled with forges, furnaces, smithies, and birthing pots, all in preparation for Isengard's upcoming role in the War of the Ring. That's it for today. Thank you for watching.